I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee Reinders. Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicki.
Present. Next is community recognition. We actually have two tonight. First, we have the Community and Nature in Harmony Awards, which Trustee Consolino will present.
Welcome to the celebration of Homer Glen Lands Day, which is celebrated annually on the fourth Saturday in September. This year, this day falls in conjunction with National Public Lands Day, which is this Saturday, September 28th, 2024. This important day is set aside to show support for recognizing and protecting significant areas in the natural environment. The Village Proclamation, written for this special day in 2001, states, "The Village of Homer Glen was founded and incorporated in large part due to the desires of its citizens to preserve the unique and diverse components of the natural environment within the village, and to take steps to assist in further protection and beautification of that environment." Through the efforts of the Environment Committee, the village created the Community and Nature in Harmony Award in 2002. Now in 2024, the 23rd year for awards, the village again recognizes individuals, businesses, community organizations, and governmental agencies that have demonstrated a commitment to the environment and in the process significantly contributed to community pride through the preservation, restoration, and/or beautification of land within the village of Homer Glen. During the awards recognition, we are honored to have the assistance of our Homer Glen Mayor, Christina Knightsky-Troicki, who will assist in presenting the certificates to individuals and businesses. I also want to thank our Environment Committee members and staff liaison for coordinating this program. It is a great pleasure the Environment Committee presents these awards to recognize how individuals can influence and care for the natural environment, and to support businesses and organizations who showcase Homer Glen's special character and generate community spirit. We have 5 residential property owners and 2 non-residential properties that are receiving awards this year. To help move things along, we ask that you come forward as I read your name, proceed to the mayor to receive your certificate, and have your picture taken, and then return to your seat. Residential properties. The inherent beauty of our community would not exist without the care of our property owners. Following awards give recognition to residential property owners who have set an example and inspired their neighbors and other residents within Homer Glen. When I call your name, please come forward. Lois and Mike Mayer, for planting and maintaining 5 acres of land and the gardens by the lake with a beautiful mix of flowers, pollinator plants, large trees, and a vegetable garden. Michael McGee, for designing and hand building unique and ergonomic benches from a large fallen cherry tree on his property. Parnell O'Brien, for maintaining healthy forests by removing invasive species and restoring pre-settlement plantings found in Illinois' native prairie, savanna, and woodland habitats, all on 5 acres of land. A lot of hard work. Maria Rodriguez for cleaning up their new property's overgrown foliage and adding a row of beautiful evergreens along 139th Street. And Jennifer Reagan, she's not able to attend tonight, but she established a row of evergreen trees for a buffer along 139th Street. Now for our non-residential properties, the following awards give recognition to our commercial and agricultural businesses or organizations who have contributed to the beautification of Homer Glen. When I call your name, please come forward while I read your award acknowledgement. Proceed to Mayor Nechke-Trike to have your picture taken and then receive your sign and certificate, and then please return to your seat. Bankston's Farm, for the planting of dozens of new trees and maintaining beautiful landscaping at the Bankston's Farm property. Home Depot, they're not able to attend tonight at our meeting, for donating a picnic bench to the Homer Township Library. Let's give all the award winners a round of applause. Thank you, Joe. And thank you all for attending this evening and showing your support for this important Homer Glen event. Mayor Nechke-Trike and Village Trustees, thank you for your support. And Environment Committee, thank you for your assistance in coordinating our presentations. And Mayor Nechke-Trike, I return the meeting back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again to all the winners. The next one on the agenda is actually something I just found out about this past weekend, which I thought needed some recognition. Are the photos up yet? Something so sweet and something so innocent. The Cub Scout Pack 249 did a wheelchair and walker wash at Marion Village. This beautiful young lady in the photo is 100 years old, and she had the time of her life, she said. I just wanted to recognize the Cub Scouts for doing such a fun thing, and the residents really had a lot of fun, and you could see that they had fun too in the photos. So that's pretty much it. Okay, moving on to amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of minutes, there are none. Moving on to public comment. Just a reminder to please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Oh, I see 2 pages.
Oh, boy.
All right, Russ Patrizio, our first mayor. Welcome. Welcome back. It's not often people get an applause before they speak.
Russ Patrizio, 12437 Mankating. Of course, get the mic, please. Can you hear me now?
There you are.
Yeah, thanks. You have on the agenda a variance in DeBoer Woods for Hardy Board, I believe. When we did become a village in '01, the first ordinance that our group did pass, and we were real strict about it, was a first floor brick ordinance, which I know you guys adhere to, except special cases, but we really wanted to maintain the character. Homer Glen's different, it's beautiful, and we didn't want the cookie cutter type homes. Not only that, and then there'll be people speaking, DeBoer Woods has a brick, in their HOA fees, a brick ordinance in there. But unfortunately, this person who owns a house tore the brick off with no permit, and tried to do something that is illegal and put hardy board on, possibly thinking he wasn't going to get it because of the brick ordinance. So we're definitely against it. Every home, first of all, when you drive into this area, the house sticks right up on the corner, and it would really look bad if it's not brick. So we would just hope you guys would vote this variance down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Walters.
First mayor was here, he beat me to public comment, so I'm here to do our prayer that was taken out. So I'd like to start in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. All glory and honor go to you, Almighty Father. For the times that we've fallen short, for the times we did not live up to your expectation, for the times that we've sinned against you, we beg for your forgiveness, and we ask with your help to do better in the future. We give you thanks for giving us this great community, for letting us be citizens in this great country. We pray for all our leaders, whether it's village, township, county, state, or the United States, or the world, that we can come together and we can have vigorous and civil debates and still come to a conclusion that's best for all the citizens of our whatever body of government they govern. We ask that you help us to discern what you want us to do to bring about your kingdom on earth. And once we've figured it out, that we were able to execute that. We pray, I would like to pray for the health of, I've just learned that the Supervisor Balich had to have some emergency surgery today. So whatever your political angles or beliefs, we don't wish harm on anybody. And I hope we can all pray for Steve so that he recovers and does well. And I ask for all this in Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Son, Holy Spirit.
Laura Torin.
Good evening. I'm speaking out against the variance. My name is Laura Torin, and I live at 16530 Manitou Road, directly across from the home in question. When the previous owner sold that house to the current owner, it was a natural colored Tudor-style house sitting on a park-like setting. Lots of beautiful trees and landscape. When he purchased the house and moved in, things started changing. More than half the trees came down, the landscape came out, he painted the house, all the brick, all the stucco white. This was his prerogative if he owned the house. Yes, it went from looking like a park setting to an institution, but again, that was his choice. We unfortunately have to look at it daily as our kitchen and patio overlooks this residence. What he is now planning goes against the Homer Glen ordinances. He took all the materials outside, which was brick and stucco, and is planning on all siding. The Homer Glen ordinance requires 100% brick on the first floor. This was not his plan. I do not believe he investigated the laws, and I'm wondering if he even applied for permits. He does not even live in this house. He is a real estate agent in the habit of flipping houses, and he lives in Florida. What he is planning will have a direct impact on the value of surrounding homes. Our home is brick and stucco. The house across the street is all brick. The house next door is a brick and stone, looks like a cabin in the woods. The house behind him is brick and cedar. All these houses follow the Homer Glen 100% brick ordinance. Again, this house is being rented out. He does not live there. He is trying to go with the latest, greatest fad in order to make a profit. They are building houses like what he is planning to do in Lockport and Plainfield, cookie cutter styles. In 10 years, what he is planning will be out of style. Brick and mortar does not go out of style. Please do not grant this variance. The rest of us will suffer for a person that does not care about the aesthetics of community or even the laws that a village makes to protect its residents, of which he is not.
Thank you. Gerald Schramek.
Gerald Schramek, 16531 Catawba Road. I am also here to speak with respect to the sought-after variance for the Boar Woods subdivision. Russ mentioned that in one of the first ordinances that they passed after the incorporation of this village related to the quality of building structures. And your ordinance, enacted in 2001, effective as of today's date, calls for 100% brick on the first floor, first story. We know that ordinances are given a lot of thought before they are enacted, with consideration to the overall community, and you hope for and intend for its universal application. But we also know that sometimes there are extraordinary circumstances that arise in which a deviation from that general ordinance may be necessary under those circumstances. But it should not be lightly granted. And in fact, your definition of a variance basically says we need two requirements for you to consider a variance, and that is, number one, that it creates an extreme hardship, and number two, that it is not something that is caused by the applicant. As applied to these circumstances, the hardship, the only hardship that we see is that it is a cost savings device for someone who does not reside in the house, but uses it as a rental property. That type of hardship is not one contemplated by your ordinance. Secondly, something that is not caused by the applicant. In this case, we had a conforming house that existed at the time of the enactment of this ordinance, right up until several weeks ago, when the applicant removed the brick from the first floor. So he caused his whole problem, and now comes to you saying, look, I don't care about your general ordinance, I want to save some money for myself, so let me put up this hardy board.
30 seconds.
And thank you, that's my main point.
Thank you. Joe Therese.
Hello, I'm Joe Therese. I live at 13956 Christina Lane. I'm here to speak about the possible BP pipeline of the removal of our heritage trees. Now, some of these trees have been dated to be over 300 years old. They're our heritage. We don't have old buildings. We have only our trees as our heritage for our community of Homer Glen. These trees were here when there was just Native Americans. Then came the French fur traders 300 years ago. 200 years ago, the English settlers came. These trees were here then. In the early 1940s, Standard Oil put a pipeline in. They were able to put the pipeline in with 1940s equipment and technology, and they left the trees intact. There's no reason to remove these trees, none at all. And you'll hear more about it later, but I want to emphasize that this is what we have to pass on to our future generations. They're the only heritage we have to pass on from this age period. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder to the residents, you don't have to state your address. It's just a protection for you guys in case you speak against something that somebody else is for. I just want to make sure that no one has your actual address. Angela Adolph.
Good evening. My name is Angela Adolph. I'm a proud community member, and I work at our high school at LTHS. And we just wanted to come and share a few of the good things that are happening in and around the district. It is our goal to try and attend meetings periodically just to keep everyone up to date on what we have going on. And it's kind of a hope that everyone in the community views LTHS as their high school and that everything that we have going on is something that they could also participate with. So I'm going to start with some overviews and then end with some highlights of our students. So this Friday is homecoming, our homecoming game, where the Porters will take on Naperville North at 6 p.m. Porters are 3-1 right now, so we're hoping that they continue that momentum into homecoming. And with any luck, everyone has received a postcard inviting them to some community focus group meetings that the high school is having. We're very interested in hearing from the community about what they want their high school to look like into the future. Without that input, decisions are often made and people are somehow surprised later. So it is a goal, and everyone in the room should hopefully have gotten that postcard. If not, please check the website at the high school. We want input from everyone in the community, not just the parents of the students that go there. We also are hosting Young Hearts for Life again this year. We did it 2 years ago. It's the goal to do it every 2 years. It's screening an EKG that offers students the opportunity for free. And the idea behind that is to prevent any sudden cardiac arrest. We heard in Downers Grove that a young woman fell on the football field. That is the type of thing that we would hope would never happen with our students. So every 2 years, we're bringing Young Hearts for Life into the school with the opportunity to hopefully alleviate that. Last time we did this, they identified 10 students. So it is a life-saving opportunity. It's not included in regular pediatric visits. So we're pretty happy that we get to do this. We need 225 volunteers. We do have quite a few, but if someone was ever interested in helping at the high school, this is an amazing event to participate in. There's something about knowing when you leave that you've really changed the trajectory of a child's life. Let's see, October 11th, we're hosting a breakfast with the Will County Will County Center of Economic Development. I hope that anyone that would be interested would like to attend. It's a partnership that we're creating for students to try and offer them internships to keep our students in our communities and consider them long-term residents. October 24th, we have a college and career night. I'm gonna go quicker now. November 1st, we have our gold card dinner. Anyone over the age of 60 or over in our community is invited to be a gold card member at Lockport Township High School, where you can attend anything and everything for free. And they offer a dinner every year honoring that. It's a great thing to be a part of. October 29th through 3rd, we're presenting Clue on stage. I'm gonna hurry. Our band and choir concerts are always free to attend.
Time has expired.
Okay. Well, I'll go super fast and just want Homer to know that 105 AP scholars came from this village specifically this last year when they took their tests. So
Nice.
you should all be very proud. I'm going to send all this information to the mayor to share with the board. So thank you.
Thank you. Ted Knightsky. Okay.
Hello, friends and foes. I decided to come up here and say a few things about my daughter. I'm tired of the crap that goes on in this township, this village. I'm gonna start right now. I have attended meeting after meeting well before my daughter had ever gotten into politics. I have never had a target on my back until now. Chris, Mayor, I don't want you to have to fight for me and your mother, as these same people have created enough battles for you. Remember where you came from, and remember who raised you. Your mother and I will handle whatever comes our way, and we will always stand by you. I see the amount of abuse you take from certain elected officials and their buddies, and I should probably said this sooner, but I'm proud of you, kid. I really am. It has never scared you into becoming someone you are not. I was once approached myself by one of these electeds to try to convince me that you are someone you are not. I should have knocked them out then. That's how low some of these people will go. But if you just continue to take the high road, so for those of you who have drank the Kool-Aid, let me tell you who my daughter really is. Ever since she was a young girl, my daughter, the mayor, has given her heart to those in need. She donates to the Alzheimer's Foundation, ALS, Shriners, Blue Chair Dynasty, Boy Scouts, and Girl Scouts of America. Collects pop tabs for the Ronald McDonald House, was a Chicago ambassador for the Dragonfly Foundation until she had her son Gus. She is the president of the Homer Cares and hosts a Homer Gives event. She collected over 30,000 cans of food for the food pantry. Was known as Miss Christmas, I love this one, at the SOS Children's Village and still buys gifts for them to this day. She helped a homeless woman and her 3 kids secure an apartment and had it furnished with the help of this community. She sees someone eating alone, she pays for their meal. She donates to almost every special needs organization, veterans organization, fallen officers organization. I'm getting ticks, so I'm just... She hosted free events to hundreds of people in need of and gives gifts to hospitals for children and young adults with
30
cancer.
seconds.
What was that, 1 minute? 30, oh boy. Her 18th birthday, she took all her birthday money and brought gifts for seniors in nursing homes. Her 19th birthday, she collected pillows and pillowcases for those in need. Every birthday since, she donates something to someone. Just the other day, she saw a girl hosting a lemonade stand who was fighting her own battle with cancer. Chris had to turn her car around and donate, and then hosted a fundraiser for a young man with cancer right after that. I can go on and on about this, on all the good things my daughter does, but I just get called. I want you to know why certain trustees and elected officials can't step up to help her, but instead try to attack her. I'm tired of listening to all the lies and BS from these crybabies. Again, I'm proud of you, kiddo, and I don't let all the extra weight you are carrying bring you down. Keep up the good fight. You've got a good support team sitting up there with you, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike and Lois, Mayor. Oh, okay. I recognize the name, but I didn't know if they were still here. Dave Buckley.
Kind of hard to follow up on that, right? I'm Dave Buckley. I live at 13600 Pheasant Circle. I wanted to come and talk about the BP pipeline as well, as that pipeline is in between Mr. McGee and myself, our 2 properties. And Monday I got a flyer in the mail about an upcoming event that the village is hosting and going to put together, and appreciate the efforts for that. I'd like to kind of provide a little bit of clarity, because I do have a lot of background in water resources and kind of what's going to happen with that. And I'm hoping that we can sort of work together to come up with a solution to help us all out here and not remove all these trees. But the way I see it, the proposal, and I'm not exactly clear on what the scope of the work is, but it's a 50-foot wide swath from 143rd all the way to the Will County, Cook County border. And there's wetland and floodplain within that corridor that the trees would be taken out of. The village ordinance has a standard ordinance, the village, and then we also have a water resources management ordinance. And within that ordinance is defined a lowland conservancy overlay district, which regulates floodplain and wetlands. In any development, and it defines what this development is, including clearing, tree cutting, specifically tree cutting, is in the ordinance. And so I think that we could use that as a driver to force BP to apply for a permit, which would allow us to enact the tree preservation ordinance. So this may be an avenue that we can kind of all work together with to try and, get some, some traction with how to come up with a reliable work plan. I do this all the time for a little-known electric company in their right-of-ways, and we have to define limits of floodplain, wetlands, and any special management areas on a work plan, and then determine whether or not the work plan is going to impact those areas negatively. That would either then get approved by the local jurisdiction or the county. So in this case, I think we start with us, and then if it does escalate, we can go to the county, but that would include both state through the DNR and then the Army Corps, which is, obviously the Fed, and then the FEMA floodplain. In my opinion, I think that the pipeline
30
itself
seconds.
has been there for 80 years. And I think this is about money for BP, and that they are looking to limit their requirement to inspect physically the right-of-way. So they want to clear out all the trees so they can fly it over like they fly over the rest of the stuff. And that would prevent, or limit them from having to apply funds to actually physically go out and walk the pipeline. So I think it's a saving money thing, and I think we should force them for a wetland delineation, tree survey, and then, obviously a work plan. It's just some things to consider. I have a lengthy sheet here, but I was trying to keep it quick.
That's okay. Thank you. We, if the board is open to it, BP is under discussion. And a few meetings ago, we had 143rd Street on discussion. So I'm okay as long as the board's okay to kind of do an open discussion and then a question answer sort of thing after. So if you want to stick around for discussion, I'm not opposed to that.
Sure.
Okay?
Thanks.
Scott Perry.
Scott Perry, I'll be brief. I last meeting asked the city to take a look at a stop sign at Hadley and South Bell Road, and just following up if there's a contact that I could talk to kind of save people time, but just wanted to follow up and see if that is indeed going to be looked at. So
Have you not been contacted yet?
I have not, at least not that I'm aware of.
Can you do me a favor? Would you mind writing your phone number down and handing it to Mr. Baber? He'll be happy to call you as soon as tomorrow or the following day.
Great, thank you.
You're very welcome. Mike McGee. Mr. McGee, congratulations on your award again.
Thanks so much. Thank you, especially to Jennifer and the committee, the environmental committee, for considering me. 13601 Longview Drive, proud to be there, proud to identify that. So since 2007, and I'm talking with regard to what Joe Therese and Dave Buckley have already mentioned, so this is the same topic. Since 2007, BP continues to return to our beautiful neighborhood, and they're insisting on clear cutting, so they always come back citing safety issues, tree roots. So we have, it's always anecdotal, how these tree roots impact the pipeline. I'm a mechanical engineer, so I kind of understand that that's kind of impossible. And there's cathodic protection there and a coating that's tar around it. So, we're concerned from that residents are being impacted by this, safety concerns, and they keep coming back. Each time we actually legally stopped them in 2008. So there was about 16-year gap before they had returned to us. So, my question, of course, is rhetorical. If they have a legal right and there's safety issues, why hasn't this clear cutting been done? I mean, that's a very straightforward perspective. So why has, over the lifetime of the beam line, 80 years, why has our forest, and it's miles and miles along north, from north to south, miles of pipeline, no clear cutting except for in 2007, that went without any communication or permission by the village or by residents. So BP came in and they did that under a contractor, a right-of-way contractor, Brad Corbell.
30 seconds.
And so they put this on the contractor. Okay, all mistake, but thousands of trees were taken down 16, 17 years ago. And you can go down to 143rd to up to 151st or something and see that there's 50 feet of clearing where they cut before we were able to get the village's help. The impact to our property, I just wanted to mention that quickly. So we have a grade going from 139th down to Long Run Creek. We have a creek going down. There's a grade. So right along the pipeline is a creek. If you remove trees, even if there's a few trees, you're going to see erosion, and what's going to happen? It's going to it's going to make the problem in Long Run Creek worse. So, and I know that everybody's familiar with that issue in the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Dare. She's like, I got this.
No, hi, I'm Christine Ader, Homer Glen resident. So I don't have a itinerary, but I'm glad to hear all the passion people have for the environment, BP, or preserving the, the brick structure and going back to the basics. And it was making me think, the preservation of, Homer Glen trees, that's our symbol, and that's what the awards at a tree. I mean, I would advocate for like Earth Day. We have a tree planting, part of that is, going back to our roots of Homer Glen, and that's why we're so passionate about saving the trees, and because, the pipeline was put in, many decades ago, and, using archaic equipment, and maybe walking the pipeline is seen as archaic, but it's actually safer when you have somebody on the ground, visually there versus just flying over, at a high altitude. So I'm just really glad people are passionate about that. And I think the village should really, be more introspective and going back to its roots and preserving the village, because that is what's really important, and that's why people are here, and they, get very, enraged when and people come in, and when they have their properties, they can cut all the trees down, and it's just disappointing to see, but that's what some people, deem as progress. So anyway, that's all I have. Thank you.
Margaret Sabo. Margaret?
First of all, I'd like to say very quickly that I support the residents of DeBoer Woods. I live in a subdivision similar, and we have our homeowners association ordinance and rules. And if anything would come to the board that would be in conflict with those that we have, I would appreciate the board being respectful and honoring the homeowners association rules. I'm going to start here about BP. About 14 years ago, or 16 I should say, British Petroleum had started to cut trees, and this work was unannounced to the village of Homer Glen and its residents along the pipeline. The village knew nothing about this activity until the serious concern of tree destruction was brought to their attention by residents along the pipeline. In response to this problem, the village had meetings with representatives of BP and arborists on behalf of BP, Homer Glen residents, Village Mayor Jim Daly, Manager Paula Walbrecht, Engineer Mike Salamonich, and other Homer Glen staff members. The Environment Committee members included Trustee Margaret Sabo and was the Environment Committee Chairman at that time. Throughout these meetings, discussion took place about BP's intention to cut trees and whether the cutting was necessary, since the pipeline has had a large number of trees going in the area before the easement was created and before the pipeline was installed, and continued to grow since the 1940s after the pipeline was installed, and continued during the life of the easement to that time about 16 years ago. The trees are still there today. As it was deemed important to walk the pipeline to observe closely the situation from the Lamont Township, Homer Township line to 151st Street, Engineer Mike Salamonich, Trustee Sabo, concerned residents, and representatives on behalf of BP did just that. They could walk clearly, see details, and noted where the trees were going along the way. The results from the close observations were that there was no obstruction from the trees, which would prevent problems, no safety issues from the trees, and so the trees remain to this day. The residents whose trees were cut by BP before any meetings took place with the village
30 seconds.
Had a choice of whether they wanted to be compensated momentarily or compensated in the form of tree replacement by PB. Since that time, BP was to notify the village of their intentions in the future beforehand. And the information concerning the BP pipeline easement and what took place should be on record with the village since about 2008. Also, the wording in the easement agreement should be carefully reviewed. Is BP required to gain permission from the property owners first in order to cut trees? I have heard that that is the case. It would seem that clear cutting to observe the easement
expired.
I would like to ask for just a little bit.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. Is there a motion to grant Ms. Sabo an additional 3 minutes?
I made that motion.
I know, I have to read the motion first. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I thank you all. It would seem that clear cutting to observe the easement from the air has its disadvantages. It is not possible to see much, if any, problems, and it exposes the route of the pipeline for those who are hostile and wish to do damage. In 2024, the village and its residents now face the same destruction issue. The trees were not the problem since the 1940s, deemed not a problem 16 years ago, and are not a problem today. I thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to reports and communication from President and other officers. Trustee Fialko?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just totally skipped Joe. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Village manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, again, I'd like to thank our staff for their work on the special events this last weekend. We had the Chalk It Up event. Unfortunately, it rained on Sunday, so the chalk art was only temporarily available for viewing and got washed away on Sunday. There were some really good projects done, and it was well attended. Again, I thank our staff. Also, I was going to introduce our new Planning and Zoning Director, Chris Gruba, tonight. Unfortunately, he's in Champaign attending the annual Illinois American Planning Association conference. The village fully supports these type of professional development events, and we do welcome Chris on board and into our Homer Glen family, so we'll see him at our next meeting. Also, as a reminder, Friday is our annual Employee Appreciation Luncheon here at Village Hall, so the village offices will be closing at noon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fialko?
Thank you, President Troiki. I'd like to just say, I was at the IML conference this past 3 days, and it was very enlightening. Sue was out there, Trustee Stalin, Trustee Castellino, myself, and it was very eye-opening with a lot of things the classes that we attended. But we are fiduciaries of the taxpayer, and at that meeting, conversations came up as far as how villages manage themselves financially. And I will tell you, Homer Glen is in very, very good financial shape right now. And that comes from the hard work of this board by being conservative and very cost effective when it comes to contracts and business that we do. We do that for the taxpayers. Again, we are the fiduciaries of the taxpayers. And with that said, something took place this very week that, with Joe Baber and the event staff. So the fiduciaries of the taxpayers go on beyond just the trustees and into the office. Joe Baber had the event staff look into, we just had a mailer go out, and the cost of that mailer originally, I believe, was $12,296.50 in 2023. This year, it was going to be very close to the same after Joe had the event staff look into a new printing company that had recently solicited the village. We were able to save half of that amount. So we ended up paying $6,544.85. Thank you, Joe, for encouraging the staff to work that way and to look out for the taxpayers. Like it was said earlier, though, I'd like to wish the Homer Township Supervisor, Steve Balich, Godspeed recovery, and please keep him in your prayers tonight. Thank you. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Steinlen?
Thank you. I really don't have much to report. I was able to see the chalk it up drawings on Saturday, and if you missed them, the photos are on Facebook. So I would encourage you to take a look at that art. Coming up, the scarecrows are going to be delivered tomorrow, is the due date, I believe, for anyone who's doing a scarecrow. So those should be up in the park next week. And there's going to be a movie, Under the Stars, with Nightmare Before Christmas next Friday. And the nice thing about that movie occurring on October 4th is it gets dark earlier. So if you have young ones, you can enjoy maybe earlier bedtime. And then also there's a fishing derby coming up on October 12th. That's going to be the second one that our events department is doing. And I would encourage you, if you like to fish, to sign up for the derby. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
Thank you. I got to attend the same Illinois Municipal League conference as Trustee Stylin and Trustee Fialco. I definitely benefited from going to a lot of seminars that were regarding better government practices. As a fiduciary, I think it's very important, and there was a lot of information that we were provided with that I appreciate. Also, we're going to discuss it in old business, but next week, in regards to the BP pipeline, for any resident that wants to come and either have questions or has concerns regarding safety, I would like to invite you to come to our workshop that will be at the Environment Committee on Tuesday, October 1st at 5:30 p.m. If there's specific questions that residents have, I would like to ask that you submit them to the village, please to myself or to staff, Engineer Westcott, and we will either have the village staff answer what they can or BP. Hopefully we will have a BP representative that is an actual employee with BP attend the workshop, but we will also be having one of their third-party contractors as well. So it will be a workshop provided mostly by staff and BP. And then we will have a public discussion with some public comment towards the end. So please come. It is again on Tuesday, October 1st at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
I don't really have much to report. I would like to welcome Chris on board. I stopped in and saw him twice this week. And as Trustee Fialco states, we are a fiduciary, and I do appreciate that, Joe. I'm always stating that if we can save it, if we own it, if we already have it, let's use it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Village Clerk?
A couple things. For my report tonight, I would like to address a few things that were brought up at our last village board meeting regarding me. It's one thing for a trustee or someone on this board to bring up my attendance or criticize and continually point out imperfections as they see pertaining to my minutes, but I'm not going to sit here quietly while residents attack me. I would like to point out that I have never, not once, criticized a resident, a staff member, or elected official in this room, or anyone for that fact. Not many people in this room can even say that they know me, so to attack me, my work, my integrity is extremely out of line. First off, I do not vote on anything. My presence is not required to form a quorum. My opinion and my voice do not matter. I walked into this boardroom for my very first meeting in May of 2023 very naively. I had an open mind and continue to try to be fair in my minutes. Yes, the first couple sets were rough, but I asked the former village manager on several occasions to sit down and get some direction. I was given an outdated handbook. My duties consisted of 3 sentences. I came into that first meeting trying to be judgment-free. I do not always agree with everyone in this room or on this board, and that is okay. I was very clear when I ran for clerk that I was not going to allow my kids or my family to take a back seat to the ridiculously embarrassing display of childish behavior that takes place at a lot of these meetings. I have legitimately missed 3 meetings. The most recent was because I was attending curriculum night at the high school. If I am unable to attend a meeting, I always make sure in advance that the clerk's seat is covered. And when a meeting has to be rescheduled, I always reply in a timely manner with other days that I have availability. But like I mentioned, I'm not a voting person on this board, so my attendance is not important. With that being said, 6 meetings were special and/or rescheduled. I will also add that I do listen to the meetings that I miss and type up minutes. Yes, I've been late to several meetings, but my children are my first priority. I'm trying to raise decent humans who know that they are loved and supported. In regards to comments made about me not being on a committee, well, I wasn't asked, and I do make less money than trustees do, which isn't much at all. I apologize if a name has not been spelled correctly when I have to go through the public comments sheet. I'm not a handwriting expert, and sometimes it is extremely difficult to read other people's handwritings. I will continue to try and do my best that I can to serve this community because I do care. Moving on to the 2024 general election, which is November 5th, 2024. Early and grace period voting begins tomorrow at the Will County Clerk's Office located at 302 North Chicago Street in Joliet. You can go to, for the days and times, you can go to willcountyclerk.gov. And then early voting begins at Homer Township on October 21st through the 25th, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 3:30. And then from October 28th to November 1st, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 3:30 p.m. And that's it.
Thank you. Village Attorney?
No report, Madam Mayor.
Public safety officials? Okay, then me. Trustee Bills, Clerk Bilski, thank you for your report. Your voice, you do matter. We're all equals here. We're all residents trying to do the best we can. So you do matter. And if there's ever time you want to speak, please just wave your hand or do something so I can see you, okay? I want to, Trustee Reinders wanted me to apologize for her absence today as she is still recovering from her previous surgery. I was not aware of Supervisor Balich, but I will be in church on Saturday praying for his recovery. The Ability Awareness Committee, which I am the chair of, we're looking at starting a sign language class. So if anybody is interested in a sign language class, we're trying to do it for free. So if anybody's interested, email the village and we'll get you signed up. We're having a Veterans Day celebration at Konos Farm on November 3rd from 12 to 3. It is free to all. It's usually about 400 veterans, 300 to 400 veterans and their families that come. They eat and have some pop and water and music and entertainment for free. I wanted to thank my dad for coming up here today. I really appreciate that. So, and I have your back too. So, all right, moving on to consent agenda. K1, consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of September 13th, 2024 through September 26th, 2024 in the amount of $1,337,559.19. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Trustee Steilen?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to legislation and action items. 1, consider a motion to pull from the table the reimbursement of $1,000 to Lenny's Gas and Wash. Now, hold on. I'm going to pause here for a second. The last board meeting, they made me do this in 2 separate motions. Okay, I see it. Lenny's Gas and Wash for fines paid, and to consider amending ordinance 19-043.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Fialko, do you have any discussion?
Yes, I do. Now, we're just discussion on
Just
taking it
tabling.
from the table.
Taking it from the table.
Right. We went through this in detail at the last meeting, and if it moves on, I'd like to do that. I've got some. The reason I'd like to do this is because I think we would be remiss in taking and not addressing the issue we have at hand. It's fresh in everybody's mind, including Joe Baber and Casey, and everybody on this board kind of knows what's going on. And I agree. We should take and we should move in the direction to get this straightened out, not only for the village, so they're able to enforce the village code properly and justly, and also for the owner of that gas station to have some defined rules that he knows that he would have to go by. So that's why I'd like to move this down the road here in discussion for that reason.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
No, I already expressed my support of doing this at the last meeting.
Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Mayor Neitzke-Trojke?
So this is just to move it back to the agenda.
Correct.
Pull it from the table.
Pull it from the table. Aye. So the second motion is consider a motion to approve the reimbursement of $1,000 to Lenny's Gas and Wash for fines paid, and to consider amending ordinance 19-043 and to add language regarding enforcement and penalty of the long-term parking violations.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko?
I'll second.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Fialko?
All right. Just to recap as best as I can, Lenny's gas station in October 23rd of 2019, under let me see, it was under H5, ordinance 19-043. They were given the permission to take and build the gas and wash. There were several discussions. I guess the conversation I heard in the video, it took 3 years to get there. In that process, the board voted on it 5-1, so the motion passed. The second thing is, ordinance 19-043 had a condition. A condition was no semi-trailers shall be parked long-term on the subject property, and a sign posted saying no long-term truck parking sign with 1 hour parking limit shall be posted at the turnaround. With that said, there are 6 signs posted over there with that information on, so Lenny's Gas and Wash went way above and beyond. Just like Jewel would have a PUD put together that says, we won't allow anybody to park in the fire lane, and we'll post signs that say no parking in the fire lane. What happened here after that, well, and during the meeting, and I have it queued up, October 23rd, 2019, our own mayor, George Yukich, said there was nothing in this ordinance to address enforcement. So it was said by Trustee Barium, Trustee Gray, and the mayor, and their legal counsel, they would come up with an ordinance to address enforcement. So it was never done. It was 2019. It was late in 2019. So some things had changed, and they never got to creating an ordinance. So that really isn't fair to the village, and it really isn't fair to the gas station owner at this time. And I use this example, Jewel. If somebody parked in the fire lane, it's posted right on the wall under their PUD, probably that they had to post the signs, that there would be no parking in the fire lane, and it's posted. But we don't have somebody, whether it's our village ordinance enforcement or the sheriff, go there and write a ticket to the cashier or somebody at the front desk or send it to Jewel Corporate. They would give it to the person that parked in the fire lane. That's who the fine would go to. And so in this case, it was given to the owner of Gas and Wash instead of giving it to the person that actually parked there for longer than the signs allow. Now, in my walks, we don't have an ordinance. And Joe Babe, we talked about this in A&F. I talked about with Casey and Joe. They both agree that, well, that we should give the $1,000 back. We should be the big people. We should have the integrity to give the money back and come up with an ordinance to cover it. And that's what I hope we can kind of do here, get started here today. When I asked, I said, why did we do this? It says the ticket went to Gas and Wash because they failed to notice or report the driver to the sheriff's department. For one, the second part of this is usually without an agreement, an ordinance agreement, for us to be able to go on that property and actually write a ticket on private property, we would have to have an ordinance to address it. So that's part of what we need to address here. Now, they got a ticket. It was in, the two tickets they got, one was in October 4th, 2023. The other one was in October 25th, 2023. Adjudication wasn't until almost the beginning of December. It was at the end of November. With that said, the person that came in, be it for time or whatever reason, was a manager at the gas station. So whoever looked into this ordinance in the PUD agreement didn't look very far. They took and they just basically said, well, we'll drop the one if you pay the other, and the manager at that time just did that. There was no lawyer involved at that time, and the owner of Gas and Wash wasn't there for that. So the thing is, again, if somebody was to get a ticket at Jewel, it would go to the person parking in the fire lane. It would be the same thing at Taz's. It would be the same thing at Kona's Farm if you're parking in a no parking zone. So I think for us to come up with an ordinance to address the thing, it was said last time that it was almost a year. It really wasn't a year. By the time everybody found out and we asked questions, I asked Joe questions, and by the time it got here, it's now September. I get that. But adjudication really wasn't until the end of November, and sometimes things take time. And it doesn't matter how much time it takes, it's that we do the right thing. And at this point, I believe what we should be doing is agree to refund the money, as Joe Baber said last time, he agreed to that, and then to come up with the ordinance. We can put a meeting together, or however we want to do it. We can then schedule an ordinance to create that, and maybe have Lenny's Gas and Wash, their people come here. But on this video, the same thing was said at that time, and it didn't get done. So again, I don't believe it's anybody's fault. And after further review and my conversation in admin and finance and in meetings in the office, I think that everybody is in agreement to do that. Now I just kind of let the dust settle after the last one. We kind of we tabled it just so we could kind of look this over and come up with a plan. And the first step to that plan, I believe, is to take and refund the money, because we're all in agreement. Matter of fact, Trustee Mason even said he's in agreement to giving the money back. Joe Baber, myself, Casey, and I don't know who else, but nevertheless, I would like to see us move in that direction.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
No, I was in attendance for the meeting with staff and Trustee Fialco, and all the facts that he's pointed out. I'm in firm agreement that it is our responsibility to be giving back a fine, even though it was paid, regardless of what was said in the adjudication court, because basically, going by our own ordinance, the ordinance needs to be amended. So I think we all agreed on that the last time.
We don't have.
Oh, we don't have an ordinance specific to that, but with the PUD, I'm still in agreement that this needs to be refunded.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
Yes, it has not quite been a year, 11 months, I guess, but there were 2 tickets written. I've never seen anybody from Gas and Wash attend any of these meetings yet to ask for this, so I'm wondering who's asking. One was waived way back then in adjudication, and one was paid. The manager admitted guilt and paid it. I'm not opposed, as Trustee Fiocco states, to addressing an ordinance that is more specific. But I asked for this to be tabled, and I remember exactly why, because I asked for an SOP. How are they gonna?
Okay.
I asked for an SOP, for them to put together an SOP, and Gas and Wash to be able to report this. As Trustee Fiocco states, this is private property, and at this time, I just haven't heard from anybody from Gas and Wash. They've yet to attend anything, and the only person that keeps bringing it in front of us is Trustee Fiocco.
Trustee Stylen?
Thank you. When this PUD was happening, I believe there were a lot of residents in the area that were very concerned about trucks parking long-term at that Gas and Wash. And that is why the information or the request or variance was put in the PUD. So my concern is with enforcement, just like it might have been back then. They put up 6 signs. That's very applaudable that they did that. However, the signs say violators will be fined and towed at owner's expense. So that to me is a pretty good remedy, is if they would have just called and had the vehicle towed. I don't think they need a ticket in order to do that. So, because it is their property. So I would have liked to have seen some effort, and I'm afraid that if we just refund the $1,000, where are they coming to us and saying that they're going to take some action? Because now if we, just with this ordinance putting in that, I'm thinking the ordinance would be that we have the right to have our police go on the property and issue a ticket, then it becomes our problem to enforce it. I would like to hear from if there is a petitioner, how they plan to try and remedy this. Because if the resident called, they got 2 tickets, 2 different occasions, I don't think that there's a resident probably staring out their window with binoculars or going around chalking tires 24 hours a day. So it must be a problem, and that is my concern. And so that is why I am not for giving them the $1,000 back without seeing something from the owner in saying that they will do something about it.
I just have a couple clarifications. This motion to me is the way I see it actually should have been written in 2 separate motions. One should have been voted on to refund the $1,000, and the second one should have been to change the ordinance. However, I don't see any recommendations on what to change the ordinance to, so I find it hard to vote on something when you don't know what you're amending it to. I think it's okay to vote to say we want it to be amended. Mr. Baber, I know that at the last meeting you stated you didn't bring this forward, that somebody else did. So I would hope that there would be some recommendations on what they would like it to be changed to. So I'm happy to entertain a motion to separate this motion into 2 separate ones. Does anybody so choose to do that?
I do. But if I could,
So are you motioning to separate the 2?
Can I make a comment, though?
But you can, I'm just asking, is there a motion first to separate the 2, so separate this?
I'll make the motion to separate this I will make the motion to separate this into two different portions, and one to be us to address the ordinance.
Okay. Then you second?
I did.
Madam Clerk, is there any more discussion on separating? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fiocco?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Okay, so the first motion that is brought before us is to refund Lenny's Gas and Wash $1,000. Is the petitioner here? Is anyone from Lenny's gas station here? Okay, So trustee Mason, since you made the motion to separate it, do you have any more discussion on refunding the $1,000?
I do not, Mayor.
Trustee Fialko, since you made the second, do you have any discussion?
On the separation or just on the discussion itself? The thing is,
I asked if you were going
Okay.
to have any discussion on separation. You said no. We did roll call.
Sure.
I'm asking, do you have any more discussion on the $1,000 refund?
Yes. I just want to say that there is no SOP that would go with that. I already had this conversation with Joe. And there is no ordinance to amend, like you said. We don't have an ordinance to enforce parking. We have no ordinance to enforce parking. That's the problem. So separating is a great idea. I agree with that, absolutely. So the other thing is when it says that the owner's expense, what that means is the owner of the vehicle, not the owner of the property. I just want to be clear on that. And what we're looking at, everybody, is this sign right here, where 6 of them were posted and only 1 was required. So it says violators will be fined and towed at the owner's expense, meaning the driver of that vehicle. So this is where there is confusion. And I think when we get our ordinance, we should post our ordinance right on the bottom of the sign. We should require that. And having Lenny come in or whoever wants to represent him to us, and we put it together. I don't know what Joe's recommendation would be for putting the ordinance together. That takes legal's input, that takes the office's input, so everybody's happy, that's all. And so Joe knows who to send to find somebody.
Trustee Fialko, I just want to remind you, we're on the motion to refund the $1,000,
Yes.
not the amendment. Are you done?
I'm done now.
Okay, Trustee Consolino?
I just want to reiterate what's written in the PUD as the condition. No semi-trailer truck shall be parked long-term on the subject property. A no long-term truck parking sign with 1-hour parking limit shall be posted at the turnaround area. It is. Ordinance passed with a 5-to-1 vote. Condition as stated above was met. Lenny's actually posted 4 signs instead of just 1 as required. At the same village board meeting, then Mayor Yukich stated there is no way to enforce the long-term parking. And then Trustee Gray stated that we can come up with an ordinance later on. Ordinance was not created later on to help this. So I'm still reading this as he did not violate the ordinance as it's written.
Thank you. Trustee Steilen?
I disagree. It says no semi-trailer trucks shall be parked long-term on subject property. That was what he was instructed to do. The onus falls on the owner. I am not confused about the signage because if the vehicle was towed, the vehicle owner would be paying for it. It wouldn't cost the gas station owner anything. So, unless he has an agreement with the towing company, which he could probably recoup. So if we don't uphold the fine, I don't see what is going to make him do anything differently. And as far as the SOP, I wasn't thinking of a village SOP. I was thinking a procedure from the owner of the station saying, this is what I am going to do so that this does not continuously happen. And I'm not hearing that.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Steilen?
No.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicki?
No. Okay, on the second motion. Is there a motion to consider amending ordinance 19-043 to add language regarding enforcement and penalty of long-term parking violations?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason?
I will second that.
Trustee Fialko? Trustee Mason?
I think we just do need to put something together so it's cut and dry. I feel for the residents that back up in this scenario, but bottom line, it's we kind of created our own monster, that's all.
Trustee Fialko?
Well, I think guidance from Joe and legal to get us started and on the way would be the right way to do it. No matter what, as far as towed, that would be the owner. I get that, but fined, it also says fined and towed, the owner, not just towed. So anyway, to come up with the ordinance would be, I think, starting with Mike or either Mike or Paul, and Joe, and all of us giving our input once we get the owner involved. I think that is the right direction to go.
Trustee Steilen?
Yes, I support amending the ordinance, and I'm sure it's just going to come before us, whatever the new language would be.
Trustee Consolino?
I'm in support of that. I just want to remind everyone that in the PUD, there's nothing to stipulate any type of SOP on behalf of the gas station owner.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Steilen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to L2. Consider for approval an ordinance granting a variance to allow fiber cement siding materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standard 75-66, applicability and scope, new and existing building and structures, additions, alterations, reconstructions, and replacements of existing structures of the Code of the Village of Homer Glen for certain real property located in the R2 Single Family Residential District at 12357 West Mackinac Road, Homer Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion? I'm going to ask for a motion one more time. Hearing none, motion fails. Number 3, consider for approval the mayor's appointment of Joseph Baber to serve as chairperson of the village's Behavior and Health Addiction Recovery Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Fialko, is there a second?
I'll second, since Joe has asked me for it so many times.
Trustee Mason? We'll just give the room a minute to clear. You're very welcome. Okay, Trustee Fialko, do you have anything?
Yes, I just want to make sure that Joe wants the position, for one. And for two, you are a resident, right, Joe?
I am a resident of 30 years, sir.
That it?
That's it.
Trustee Mason?
No, I actually appreciate it. I think he's trying to be cordial and assist me in taking some off my plate, but he has a strong knowledge and relationship with this committee. And I've always said that I was the least qualified because there are like 4 doctors and therapists and counselors, and basically all I do is facilitate that meeting.
So is this your official resignation from being chair of the committee?
Do I have to resign or can Joe? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Trustee Steilen?
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, for Manager Baber, I should say, for taking on extra. I think you already have a full load, but we appreciate your serving on this committee.
Trustee Consolino?
No, thank you, Joe.
I just wanted to reiterate that Joe did ask to chair this committee, and he's excited to do so, so I didn't just throw it at him. But Joe, did you have anything to say?
This committee is very important to me. It's affected a lot of people I know in this community, and I want to continue offering the opportunity for our residents to have some resources and things to help out people who are battling either mental health or addiction problems. I just want to do my part. Thank you.
Well, we thank you, Joe. All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Steilen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye. Motion carries. Number 4, consider for approval, oh yeah, clap, clap, clap. Consider for approval the mayor's appointment of Dan Waddick to serve as chairperson of the Homer Festival Committee. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason?
I'll second.
Trustee Steilen? Mason? Trustee Mason?
I've sat with Dan on several occasions, including yesterday, in fact, and Dan is very competent, and we look forward to him heading this up. I think he's going to be awesome.
Great. Trustee Steilen?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a nice thing to try, and I think Dan will do a good job.
Trustee Fialko?
I think Dan is a good choice. Dan has a very, I worked with him during the fest this last time. I know his background, and I think he'll do a good job. The only thing I want to make sure is that we're not violating our own ordinance. I know we said sometimes staff, but also our ordinance requires you to be a resident. I know we've criticized other people that were on the fest that were in Homer Township for being on a committee, matter of fact, Homer Fest. So I want to make sure maybe council can help us out with that, because I don't, unless Dan Waddick is, as far as I know, he's not a resident. And so I don't mind appointing Dan, but also, is that something that we need to address? So I'd like to know that before I move forward with my...
Didn't we just change it?
Attorney?
Madam Mayor and Trustee Fialko, I'll have to take a look at that. I do not know if there's there's two requirements. One, that there's a requirement of residency and to be a staff member. I'd have to look at it.
There's not.
And give an opinion related to it.
I believe the ordinance is written as village trustee and/or staff. It doesn't say that the staff member has to live in the village of Homer Glen.
I think it has language.
It does.
But it says a resident on the committee must live, but it doesn't say that the chairperson does. It says the chairperson can be a board member or staff.
It still references back to living in the village. And the reason maybe it didn't get changed, because if you're a trustee, because that's what it was before, it's assumed if you're a trustee, you live in the village. So I don't know if it's something we need to fix, but it still does address that you have to be a resident. So that's still in there. No matter which way we turn or twist it, that verbiage is still in there. I know that we made some changes and we had the 1, 2, 3 step, but we forgot to address the residency requirement. And I know that we've been beat up for that before, so I just want to make sure that we have our bases covered when it comes to the ordinance, and then we can move forward.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino?
I'm fine as long as, yes, we do review our ordinance, and if it needs to be changed, we have to change it. But this is a huge undertaking with the Homerfest, and I'm in support of Mr. Waddick taking it over, and thank you.
My suggestion would be then, if that's how the board feels, that we approve him with attorney review. Just to clarify, no person was criticized. It was just how the person was called in roll call. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
This is what the conditions for the attorney to review, right?
Yes.
Okay, one of us would have had to put that in there, but I would like that verbiage added, and then aye.
It's written down.
Consolino was last. You
I know,
didn't.
but did he say aye?
Oh, he did.
Okay. Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Okay, so just for clarification, Trustee Mason and Trustee Stylen made the motion, but there was no amendment to it. But I'm assuming it would be understood that he's appointed, and if not, he would be removed. But I'm wondering, should we add those words in there?
Yes. You can just move to reconsider and just add that language to the previously passed motion.
So at the end.
What he said. I'm motioning to reconsider the mayor's appointment of Dan Waddick with the consideration of the attorney, under attorney review of the ordinance.
So moved.
Okay. Trustee Stylen?
Second.
Okay. So all in favor? Aye. I'm not even voting.
Mike. Okay.
Okay, so number 5, consider for approval an ordinance authorizing the village to exercise its option to purchase and close on property for public use. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino and Trustee Mason? Trustee Consolino?
No.
No comments? Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialko?
Can you repeat what you said?
The motion is to consider for approval an ordinance authorizing the village to exercise its option to purchase and close on property for a public use.
Under L5, okay. Aye.
Wait, we're not voting. I'm asking if you have
yes.
any discussion.
Yeah, I was reading this thing, and I don't often do that, but I was reading something while you were reading the motion. But is there any discussion on this? No, we've talked about this for a long time. We know our intentions, and our intentions are good. This is part of a long-term plan, And that would be it for me.
Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to make mention, though, is in this, if anybody's reading it, I asked legal, if I could say it, in addition to this, there's a change that needs to be made, or an amendment to this until legal gets to review that pipeline that's going through there. Mike, I don't know how you want us to...
If you could just direct your questions to me, and I will have the attorney talk about it, because he's going to address it after all the trustees speak.
Oh, if he's going to address it, that's fine. Other than that, in the long-term portion of it, I did ask if we could talk about the lease. This property is going to be leased back for a while. So while we own the property, we're going to be getting some money back on that very same property. So I think that's important for the public to know.
Thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, this is just to approve and authorize to exercise the option, so things could still happen.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Attorney, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, just want to give a quick update. I reserved in my report and I thank you, Madam Mayor, for calling upon me here, just to give the public and also the trustees an update as to where we're at. So we've been working diligently with both Sellers Council and myself and our team over at Peterson, Johnson and Murray to get everything ready to go to perfect a closing. We have a diligence period. Per the old PSA, the purchase and sale agreement that was executed back on June 27th of 2024, we had 90 days, which runs all the way through today, as a matter of fact. 90 days to inspect the property to review and assess it. Mr. Westcott's here personally. He spearheaded those efforts in reviewing the property to make sure that it was a good fit for the intended use that the village envisions for this property, which includes a wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Westcott includes in this packet his recommendation to proceed with the purchase and sale. Again, or the exercise of the option to actually close on the piece. As I mentioned, Sellers Council and myself have been working not only on those diligence items, but also some title exceptions. When you go to purchase property, just like you're buying a piece of real estate, whether it be for an investment piece, whether it be for your own home, or whether it be for a commercial piece like this, a large tract of land, there's always issues that come up with title exceptions. Currently, Sellers Council and myself are working to resolve outstanding title exceptions. So therefore, what it is my recommendation to the mayor and obviously to this board, that the village exercise its option to purchase this, but make that subject to the resolution of all outstanding title objections to the satisfaction of both the Office of the Village Attorney and the Village Manager. So I'd be requesting that a motion to amend be made for that purpose.
You're requesting a motion to amend in what words?
To amend the ordinance, which would authorize the village manager and all city officers here, or village officers, to execute all documents and such, but to amend this ordinance to make the board's authorization to close on the piece, make it subject to the successful, satisfactory resolution of all outstanding title issues, subject to the satisfaction of the village manager and the village attorney.
I'd like to make that motion.
Trustee Fialko?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll on the amendment?
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye. Motion carries. Is there any more discussion on the amended motion?
Sellers Council is here too, if anybody, Madam Mayor.
There you are.
Mr.
Hi.
Gaddard's here. And I just want, Madam Mayor, if I may add one more thing. We have agreed, Sellers have agreed to extend the due diligence period from 1 week. So today's September 25th, technically is the day, per the agreement, that we tell the sellers whether or not we want to proceed with the closing. Because we've all been working diligently or so close to finalizing this transaction, Sellers and us have agreed to extend that due diligence period 1 week. And that's under Article 5.1 of our purchase and sale agreement. I'm sorry, Article 4.1 of our purchase and sale agreement, in addition to the title objection period, which was Article 5.1. Sellers have agreed to that, which would make the closing then, provided everything's to our satisfaction, the closing would take place that following day, which would be October 4th. Am I right? Mr.
Good evening. My name's Tom Geddard. I'm the Sellers Counsel. That is correct. I wanted to thank both council and everybody involved that this has been a process. Everybody's been working diligently to get done. As Mr. Pasquinelli points out, we are very, very close, and I believe the 1 week we will be able to resolve the remaining issue, that we will be able to bring this to a closing. So I did talk to the client this evening. We are in agreement that it's beneficial to all parties to go ahead and extend this 1 week.
Okay, thank you.
And that's, and Madam Mayor, may we ask?
Yes.
And now it's the extension of the due diligence and the title objection periods for 7 days, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we're moving on to old business, BP pipeline.
Wait, we had one last.
6.
Oh, wait, did I skip 6? Oh, I did skip 6. L6, consider for approval resolution number 24-017, authorizing the participation in the ComEd Green Region Program for the Culver Park Pollinator Migration Habitat Project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Stylen, was it you? Did you second?
I second.
Oh, okay. Does somebody want to read the resolution? I just put a piece of candy in my mouth. Trustee Consolino, do you want to read it since it's your environment?
So, just consider a motion to approve resolution number 24.
No, the resolution itself.
Oh, sorry. Okay. A resolution authorizing participation in the ComEd Green Region Program for the Culver Park Pollinator Migration Habitat. Whereas the Village of Homer Glen, a local municipality in Will County, Illinois, is a home rule municipality pursuant to Section 6A, Article 7 of the 1970 Constitution of the State of Illinois, and as such may exercise any power and perform any function pertaining to a government and affairs, including the power and authority to contact and be contracted with. And whereas the village desires to undertake the Culver Park Pollinator Migration Habitat Project as part of the 2024 ComEd Green Region Program. And whereas the village desires to apply the ComEd Green Region Program for a grant for the purpose of carrying out this project. And whereas the village has received and understands the current ComEd Green Region Program guidelines. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Village President and Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Homer Glen, Will County, Illinois, hereby approve this project and authorize application to the ComEd Green Region Program in the amount of $7,460. And be it further resolved that the village commits to the expenditure of matching funds in the amount of $7,460 necessary for the project's success.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Now we're moving on to old business. BP pipeline. We're going to run this old business just like we do with any other agenda item. Is there anybody who would like to go first?
I would.
Well, you know what? I'm actually going to extend that to Trustee Consolino since she was the one who asked to have it put on the agenda.
The reason I had asked for it to be put on the agenda tonight was because I wanted to inform any of the public, because I figured a few of them would be here, to let them know from staff why we're having the workshop, what's going to be presented at the workshop, and that they'll be afforded the opportunity to speak. So I would rather give my time on this to staff, because I've had a lot to do with it the last couple weeks, and then you all can have your say, okay?
I'm going to go around to the trustees first. Trustee Mason?
I would just like to thank Mr. Dave Buckley and Mr. McGee, both engineers, for being here tonight. This is no different than like 143rd Street. We want to preserve our way of life. Mr. McGee brought something up which concerns me, because I've been out there for flooding issues and have walked through there with our own village engineer, Mr. Buckley, and yourself even at some point, Mrs. Mayor. And bottom line, we don't want, and I don't even like the word clear cut, but You know, I have a lot of questions myself. Why hasn't this already been, maintenanced in the past? Why has it been let go for so long? I knew that in 2008 it was shut down. Mr. Buckley, he does a great job. He gives us great explanations. He brought a couple things tonight to my attention that I hadn't even thought about. Defining the limits of the floodplain, the wetland delineations. Mr. Buckley is a resident. He's also the precinct captain of that area and a civil engineer. So we appreciate his comments. I appreciate everybody that came out tonight to speak on behalf of that area. I feel for you guys. It's not our goal to go ripping down trees, and I can't believe that something from 1946 in perpetuity still stands today. It's just mind-boggling. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, thank you. I want to say the role of the village is to help the residents when they have a concern like this. I'd like to find out all of the facts to see what is it that we can do to help. Losing the trees, and if that's part of your property, I can see how that's very devastating. But what really struck me is I don't think we have all the information that we would like. All the trustees have received all this information. I've had a lot of emails the last couple weeks. I was aware of this like last year, and I remember back in 2007, 2008 when that was happening before. They are also planning on removing trees in the village right-of-way. And when I heard that, I thought, well, that's what, the parkways, like along the road or something right along there. But no, the right-of-way is long. And I really want to encourage everybody to see a map of the trees that will be removed that are on the village right-of-way. And you might think a little bit differently about this issue, because it's a lot of old oak trees, I think. I need to walk it myself. And I was disappointed because the meetings were canceled, and the weather's not going to stay good for long. So I would encourage that if we can find a way, anybody to go out and walk that right-of-way and take a look at it. Because if those trees were there since the 1940s, I think that is a good question, like why can't they continue to do things the way where they're doing? Now, if the pipeline is aging, I do have concerns about that. I don't know how long a pipeline lasts and before it has to be replaced. I do think we should have BP apply for a permit that would enact the tree preservation ordinance. Let's get going and making sure that they're doing the wetland delineation and everything else that they're supposed to be doing. The documents that were used in 2007 to halt the tree removal, whatever was the correspondence, I've asked for copies of that and have not found it. I did get some copies of emails, and I just got them today. So I haven't had a chance to go through all of that. And I would do that before any workshop on Tuesday. Flooding was a problem in some of that area along Longhorn Creek. So I have concerns. Yes, safety is a concern, but what else is going to happen with the removal of all that vegetation? What will happen to the water in that area? The distance of the pipelines from the homes, I don't know what that is, because maybe that isn't, like this, maybe that will help us feel a little bit about the safety risks. There are pipelines all throughout this community. When you drive down a street, sometimes you're going to see a little pole sticking up. So whatever safety issues we apply to those, I mean, if we're going to apply it here, if you have to have a 50-foot or 25-foot clearance from a pipeline, is that happening in our other areas? I don't know. That's a question that I have. I would like an arborist to weigh in on some of the trees. I would like to see a tree inventory of what is actually being removed. Is it totally clear cut, or are we just going in and taking down some trees and leaving some of the shrubbery? So that question hasn't been answered yet. And I think it's imperative that BP be present at a meeting with the village, and that hasn't happened. We've talked to their contractor or whatever. I think BP needs to be involved. And the idea of clearing these trees is for air surveillance. I think that there's some disadvantages to that. Walking along the pipeline where it's actually buried, you're going to see, the first thing that you're going to see when there's a leak is, from my understanding on the videos I've watched, and is that there's going to be a change in the vegetation, and I think that that's probably going to be more apparent on the ground. I'm not sure. And then I do know that Mr. McGee had mentioned drone surveillance instead of airplanes, so maybe the path doesn't have to be wide. So I have a lot of questions, and I think that we could help the residents a little bit more in our conversation with BP and seeing how they do it. And it does affect this village because we have a large piece of right-of-way that they want to clear on. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, I think this is one of those subjects where there's a lot of unknowns yet. I was in the utility industry for over 40 years one way or another. I know that utilities have certain rights for certain things. I think before we jump to conclusions, we should really get all the facts. I'm guessing that'll start on October 21st or October 1st at 5:30 p.m. here when that meeting gets started. Yes, BP should be here. But they're not, trimming the top of the tree isn't what they're trying to resolve. It's the roots that are going down towards the pipe. And I could see kind of, if I looked at it from both sides right now, if those roots took and penetrated one of those pipes and it caused jet fuel to go spraying all over and catches on fire, I could see that being a concern. But even with that said, I don't know what the exact rules are for pipelines and how deep that pipeline is. What we might look into doing is seeing where BP is at with it, and do they have a device to measure right now the distance from the pipe and the roots that are currently out there? I mean, have they identified a problem and they're trying to resolve that problem before there is a bigger problem? I don't know. Taking and this one step at a time, maybe one of the things we could do is Mr. Buckley has got utility experience from what he said at the podium. Maybe we could create a special committee. I'm not sure if that's possible where he could lead that, but I believe in our ordinance it allows that to happen. Or a subcommittee, I'm sorry, a subcommittee or a special committee, however it is in our ordinance, that's a possibility. But I think before we jump to any conclusions, we have to start with the facts. And this reminds me very much of open space property where we didn't, we didn't have the facts. We had to gather the facts. And I think this is a situation very similar to that. I understand, now this is just what I'm hearing, that a piece of property was sold over there, and when that piece of property got sold, that they relinquished the rights to a certain portion of the property. I don't know if that's factual. No one's told me. I'm just listening to people talk at this point. So we want to help the residents. This is similar to 143rd. You're destroying a huge part of history in our community by ripping those trees down if you don't need to. So we support the community and the residents that are along that property, absolutely. But we have to be factual with what's going on too. I don't know what our limitations are, even if we come up with a subcommittee. But that would be
Great.
where I'm at with it. Thank you.
Good. Well, then I'm going to go around. I've got a few things to say on this as well. Just for the residents to know that when a meeting is held, now this is an environment meeting that's going to be held at, so more than one board member, 2 board members can attend and be part of the discussion. But when a special meeting is called for just residents and board members, you can only have 2 board members. I was going to be a part of the original meeting, but since there was 3 of us that wanted to be, I had to excuse myself from being a part of the meeting. I have read all of the emails. I'm following up, but that even pertains to emails. You cannot send emails. You can send emails to us, but we're not allowed to respond to all, as it's a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I don't want anyone thinking that a certain person is ignoring the emails, or I will respond individually, but I am keeping up. I have a laundry list of questions. I have pages. I spoke with the attorney about some things. I know I talked to Trustee Stylen and Trustee Mason about this as well. We do have a lot of questions. I don't feel that putting Brett Westcott on the stand right now to answer all these questions is a good one unless he's up for the challenge, because I do have a lot of questions. But we can always talk about it one-on-one too, or you can talk with us. There's some hard, there's some easy. I do have questions for the residents though. Someone had stated, and I think it was you, Mr. McGee, that we had fought, or you said, when you said we had legally stopped them before, who is we and who brought that paperwork? And is the board's okay? I asked earlier if we were okay to have an open discussion. Is that okay with the board, just to ask questions? Because
Yes. I'll make a
can
motion.
we wait? I think I have to do a motion to dispense the rules for purpose of for open discussion. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for purpose of
Trustee Mason.
open meeting.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
So,
Is your microphone on? Is it green?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just really tall, huh?
Thank you so much for allowing me this chance. So, of course, Jim Daly, Margaret Sable, and other people were here in 2007, 2008.
I don't think it's on, sir. There you
it is
go.
on now.
We can all hear you.
Well, I'm working on this. All right. So in 2007, 2008, we were all present. And so my wife, the short story, we were driving down 147th. We saw that they were clear cutting. This was BP. We had no idea what was happening. No one was informed. We found out later, the village nor the residents. I took a picture of my wife, Christine, who's gone now, in front of a tree that was about 6 feet in diameter. This was just one of the trees by the roadside that had been clear cut. So of course, we got that photo to the South Town. That was published on the front page with a story. We contacted the village. They immediately got behind us on this and they stopped the clear cutting. I understand that it's somewhere between maybe 3/4 of a mile to a mile. If you go from about 143rd south to past 151st, you can observe that has been clear cut now. That's 16 years ago. So of course there's vegetation. And one point I wanted to make is that BP hasn't, some of the trees have been replanted and that was part of the conversation 16 years ago.
Can I stop you for a second
Yes.
there? When you say trees had been replanted and it was part of the conversation, was that something in the legal lawsuit that they had to replant these trees?
So,
does anybody have a copy of the lawsuit that took place?
I would defer that to Margaret and the engineer at the time, Michael. So how this stopped, I'll go to the point of the question. My wife and I went to the BP headquarters in Warrenville, and we met with Joe Esup, who was the manager of the headquarters, and Valerie Kaur, who's no longer with BP. She was the public affairs person. So we brought our easement agreement and had a discussion with them. And so that and probably an ICC, an Illinois Commerce Commission complaint that we had filed in 2008, that stopped BP. After that, they backed off. So,
you can see us all diligently writing up there.
well, and I can write up, I can actually, and Jennifer and I have discussed this or corresponded about this. So I could come up with a summary of everything, and I could come up with a document and send that to everyone. So from my perspective, and of course, I'm going to stay with the facts. That was my job as a mechanical engineer. I'm retired. So I'm only will put facts in there that I can reference or et cetera, to make sure that this is a realistic description of the history.
Okay. Would you be interested if the board so chooses to put a subcommittee together to be a part of it?
I would definitely would want to be on the board, yes.
I'm going to ask Mr. Westcott, how much time do we have? Is this like are they saying they want to start clearing trees next week, next month? What's their plan, timeline?
So they're pretty much waiting for our answer in regards to some of these things. I don't think that they're planning on moving forward with any of this until they get our blessing. In regards to all of these, the clearing within the village right away, the clearing within the easements. I don't think anything is progressing until they get our go-ahead on that. Obviously, we have not given them any of that because there's a lot of questions that the residents have. There's a lot of questions that the village board staff has. So I think that there's a lot of things that we need to answer, that BP needs to answer for us, right, between now and then. Okay. So we're working to address a lot of those.
Has BP filled out a permit at all?
They have not, no.
Are they required to?
That, based on what they are, identifying this as maintenance, right? They generally would not have to pull a permit for that. This is part of general right-of-way maintenance, right? That's a federal regulation, so it's regulated at the DOT level. We can get into some more of those things right during the workshop and address a few of those items. With that being said, I think that we can ask BP for whatever we want to ask them for, right?
Okay.
If the intent is you need to pull a permit, we need to see a tree survey, we need to see these things, we need to discuss these things, and we have concerns, and the village residents have concerns, and the village staff have concerns, we can absolutely ask them for all those things.
Okay. Did you have, I know Trustee Consolino had wanted to defer her time to you. Was there anything you wanted to add?
At this time, I think that there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered, right? There's a lot of outstanding things. I've been working, as much as I can, along with Trustee Consolino. She's compiled a lot of questions from the residents. We've asked the residents to share some questions. Trustee Stylen has shared some questions with myself. So I think we need a lot of answers from BP prior to that, and that'll all be addressed at the workshop on Tuesday, October 1st at 5:30.
Would you be interested in being part of the subcommittee?
Absolutely.
Trustee Consolino and Trustee Stylen, since you guys have been heading this up, would you guys like to be a part of the subcommittee as well? I'm just trying to get answers now, so because we don't have a subcommittee, we have to create one and then appoint. So I just want to get the ball moving faster than. So the two of you would like to be.
Can I recommend Mr. Buckley?
I was just going to get to that.
Yes.
Trustee Fialko recommended Mr. Buckley too. Mr. Buckley, would you be interested in it as well? Margaret Sabo, would you like to come back and hang out with the village for a little bit?
Well, I would love everyone to walk that property from 153rd all the way to the end of the township, of the village. It is absolutely gorgeous. And people think of those trees as theirs. BP hasn't really done much, and all of a sudden now they've popped up again. And so I don't know why they've done that. And it is, if this was so, if the trees were the issue, they should have been here every year. Trees grow. The roots, as far as the roots and the strangling the pipeline or poking through the pipeline, I don't think that's possible. From what I've read,
I'm going to stop you. If you're going to have more to say, I'd ask that you come to the podium so it could actually be recorded, because I can barely hear you, unless you don't want to. And then I'll go back around to the trustee. She's going to let her finish her statement, and then.
What I did say was that it's a beautiful walk. Everyone should walk it. And the people along the pipeline where the easement goes through their property, think of these trees as theirs. They've taken care of them, they spent money on them and so forth. And they've grown up with them. So BP actually hasn't done very much to maintain the pipeline. So why are they popping up now? That's my question. The trees are not the problem. The trees aren't going to strangle the pipeline. They're not going to puncture through the pipeline. From what I gathered from I believe it was Mr. Buckley's description of how they protect the pipeline before they even put it in. So I'd be happy to do this again. It's like a nightmare again. But you have to take a stand for what you believe is right.
Right.
And
I know you have the history.
I would like, as I said in my report, I would like when I addressed the board before, I would like the easements to be checked, because I have heard that BP has to ask permission of the property owners before they can cut. And the property owners said no.
So before we go, Brent's got his hand up, but I know Trustee Fialko did too, but I think a lot of this can be discussed at that workshop and figure out where we're going to go with this committee, and what we're looking for, what answers do we need answered, how do we want to move forward. So I know that there's things on Facebook that this was an opportunity for me to use it as a campaign thing or something, but this isn't. This is what we do. This is how we get things accomplished as a collective board. And so I think if we were I'll go back around to the board members one more time and have them have their final say, but I think all of this would be the most beneficial to be at the workshop. And since I now know that BP is on pause, it gives us a little bit of breath air, like fresh air. What I'm trying to say is it gives us a little breathing room. That's what I'm trying to say.
Do we know that BP will be represented?
Well, I know that was a question that we wanted BP to come, but that answer hasn't been.
Well, otherwise we're just talking to ourselves.
But that's okay. No. That's actually okay without him there, because I think what the committee needs to talk about is, where's that lawsuit? How did it get stopped before? Who has the paperwork? Who has the research? How do we know what this pipe is made out of? Does anybody have any history on it? How long have these trees been there? Are they really 300 years old or just 68 years old? I think it's important for you guys to actually talk first and get all your questions on one piece of paper, have someone run the meeting, and ask BP all these questions all at once.
Well, I believe Trustee Jen is in charge, will be in charge of that.
Trustee Hanselino?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Sorry, you said Jen, so I didn't.
Sorry. Also, there has to be a record of this in the village history, in the village files.
And we need time to find that as well.
Yeah, and I think that will answer a lot of questions.
Okay. I'm going to go to the board members real fast. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, I have a couple things to say. Just like water is very strong, water can rip houses down. In the utility industry, tree roots are 75% of the problem that cause outages on an underground cable. So tree roots do destroy pipes. They destroy lead cables, concentric cable that's buried underground. The other thing is, when lightning strikes the trees and the roots carry that voltage down, it creates pinholes in cable for ComEd. So I'm sure that might be the possibility for the pipeline, that not only the tree itself, but the roots are conductors for lightning strikes that then cause pinholes in the pipe and create problems down the line. I'm assuming at this point, only based on the electrical utility that I work for. So just like water, tree roots are very strong. Tree roots can bust foundations. Tree roots can impact a lot of things. And I'm guessing if you talk to BP, they'll say it impacts pipes too. But nevertheless, moving on just a little bit, I'd like to know, Brett Westcott, if you could tell me, have we identified their, for one, their utility easement? How old is the pipe? And have we identified their utility easement? They are in their utility easement where they're talking right now or not? And then the other thing is, if I don't know where this is all going to go, but there's always a reroute. And I don't know how expensive that would be, or if they'd be willing to reroute that pipe around the problems they've identified that they they want to take and fix this problem, but there's also, they could put a new piece of pipe in and reroute it around what they've identified as the problem. If Brett,
well, I'm going to pause you right there. I'm going to pause you right there, because all of us have questions that we want to ask him, and I have
okay, but this is an open meeting, you said.
Right, I understand.
That's my open meeting question.
Right, but what I'm saying is, why don't we all hold our questions, because all of us can go down the line. And like I said, I didn't want to put him on the spot to answer all these questions. You just have 2, but I have 17.
Yeah,
Trustee
well-
Stylen has about 9. I don't know how many Mason has, and I don't know how many Constellino. You want to spend this, you want to have the meeting tonight? We can do it tonight.
It's just
or
a
do you-
yes or a no question.
I don't believe it's a yes or no
So,
question.
It just as simple as you possibly can. Can you
It's
answer
not a
those?
yes or no question. But I am making the recommendation to hold all questions until the next time and give Brett a chance to
What's
ask,
next time are you
answer
talking
these
about?
things.
You said it was one more round for the trustees.
To state their final statements, not to bombard Mr. Westcott and a staff member with questions. You have 2. I held back on mine, Trustee Stylen held back on hers. We're all holding back our questions. Put them down on paper, send them to him, and allow him to answer.
I would like
so
to
he can.
answer.
My answer's no.
Well,
I'm not going to have him be put on a spot to answer questions.
This is an
just
open-
like
you
the
just
rest
said
of
it
us.
yourself,
A
it's an open
discussion amongst the
discussion.
board. We were asking residents here. I am not going to put Mr. Westcott
It's not
on the
putting
spot.
him on the
Yes,
spot.
it is. I feel it
Absolutely
is.
not.
I feel it
No.
is.
Matter of fact, I'd like to,
I'll go ahead and ask the attorney for you. Do I have the right
No,
to tell the staff that?
I think you'd have to entertain a motion to go back with the conformity with the rules, and then you can run this old business section as you normally would parliamentarily.
I'm going to entertain a motion to go back to enforce the original rules of the regular board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason,
Aye.
Trustee Stylen,
Aye.
Trustee Fialko,
aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're back in regular
Right. And then
discussion.
Discussion, and then all goes through the chair as previously has been. Then you call on Madam Mayor, whoever the chair deems.
My recommendation tonight is to put all of our questions down on paper and send them to Brett Westcott so he can do his homework and get the correct answers to all of us at the same time, because I'm sure I have those same questions on my papers. And I'm sure Sue has the same, Trustee Stylen has the same. I'm not going to bombard a staff member. Trustee Consolino, did you have anything else to add?
Yes, please. In all fairness, I presented Engineer Westcott several pages the other day. I tried to do my best with going through all of, Trustee Stylen has a copy of it, I think Trustee Fialko. I could send it to everybody if they would like it. That way we're not repeating the same questions. And the purpose of doing that, and like I explained to our residents, was that I want to give staff and BP time to analyze the questions, really look into the questions, answer them fully, because some of them just can't be answered off the cuff. And if you look at the sheet that we came up with, I think you'll understand why. Because some questions are specific to the village, some are specific to BP. And until we have answers from both sides, and I want them answered thoroughly, I think it's fair to us, it's fair to the residents, and then that way they can do their presentation at the workshop, and they'll have a lot of those questions answered, and then that way there will only be minimal questions that needed to be answered in public discussion or comment. And so I think if anybody else has any other questions that they want to ask, I would do it the same way. I'll give the list of what I came up with so far from our residents and from myself, and if you need to add to it, please do. And then that way we're not repeating the same questions, and then that gives our staff ample opportunity to answer it thoroughly and get the answers from BP. I do want to say one last thing. I cannot stress it enough that if we are unable to get a physical employee from BP to come here and work with us on that workshop, I do agree with the residents that then this is kind of a waste. So I feel like that's false advertising. We said that we would try and do this. If they're not willing to come out and speak, then I feel like we're kind of just going around in circles. So, I mean, we could present the information, but it's still not going to have BP be accountable for the answers that they need to give. And I have a lot of concerns. As I said, I want to reserve my opinions on this subject until we have all the facts. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Mason, did you have any, did I call you for the second time? Or no?
Yeah, I think Mr. Westcott brought a few things to the forefront that I hadn't thought about, and time being one of them. I don't know if I agree with everything Trustee Consolino said. I think when the residents get together for a workshop, yes, I would love to have VP there, but if they're not there, at least we're batting it around and we're coming up with the questions. I have a list of questions too, so I will be submitting some to you as well. But I think sometimes it behooves us to work together to create, dialogue that we want to present. And Trustee Consolino had mentioned that, hey, if we get a lot of these sent over to Brett and he's able to answer them in advance, I agree. And then the questions will be less, the meeting will be more informative and less lengthy for the residents. Thank you.
Trustee Stylen, did I call you a second time?
I don't know.
I don't remember either.
So, I don't think so. Yes, it's sort of like what Trustee Mason is saying is like we still have like our subcommittee get together, but then we have BP at something that we have with all the residents together.
Okay. I have a question for the attorney. Since Trustee Consolino and Trustee Stylen have been working together on this, now Trustee Mason, myself, Trustee McNaughton, Trustee Reiners, and Trustee Falco might have questions. And instead of bombarding staff, what I think would be the best move, and I don't know if this is legal to violate without violating the Open Meetings Act, is can we send our questions to both Trustees Consolino and Stylen, and they can work together on funneling these questions together?
Madam Mayor, if we could, maybe I could talk with that just on a privilege basis.
Yeah.
Not in an open meeting.
Okay.
On the best way to do it, to not violate, in our view, the Open Meetings Act. I understand what you're trying to accomplish. I think that there's a way that we can do it, and I could share that with you outside of open session.
All right. So then I did see Mr. Westcott. I'm sorry, we closed it for public comments, so we can talk after the meeting because we closed it after public. Brett, you did have your hand raised to talk about something.
I just wanted to say that, regardless if BP is there or not, I think that the workshop is still beneficial, not just for how it relates to the BP pipeline, but on how it relates to right-of-ways, easements, utility companies, and their rights, just in general, not exclusively just BP. This is still an informative and an educational workshop, and I think it provides a benefit to our residents. So I think that even if BP's not going to be there, I still plan on hosting the workshop, and I will post it on the website. It's meant to be an informational and educational session, and we'll address as many comments and questions as we possibly can and get the answers from BP. So.
Thank you. Can we make sure that staff member Amy Blank is there too? All right. All right, we're going to close out old business unless there's another item under old business.
There is, I have one thing. If
Nothing
it's
under
my
old?
turn.
Do you have anything under old?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
We talked about doing a workshop on 143rd Street with legal counsel that was here last time, though we never came up with a date.
Right.
So if we could address that and create a date and let the public know and go from there.
Yes, so I believe Village Manager Joe Baber was looking into dates. He wanted to make sure that a few things had panned out first. Were you entertaining October 7th?
We're looking at the availability of probably maybe a larger venue. So we're checking into that now. We have over 200 residents that are affected along 143rd. So it's a bigger crowd that would fit into this room. So we're looking at checking in availability as well as some of our strategies with legal counsel.
Does that answer your question, Trustee Fialko?
Yep.
Okay. Trustee Consolino? Anything under old? Anything else under old? Anything under new?
Yes.
Trustee Fialko?
I didn't want to go before anybody else in case somebody else had something. Well, as we come into October, that is the midpoint. That's the 6th month of our overall fiscal year. So what I'd like to do is just with John Sawyers when he gets back, if we could have a midpoint review of our budget for the fiscal year so far up into October, or whatever he can review with us to let us know where we're at, that would be great.
Okay, so the last thing on our new business, I just want to make sure that on the next agenda, we have a subcommittee. I'm recommending it to be under Environment Committee or a task force or however we do, so make sure that's on there so we can get appointed on there ahead of time. Okay? Okay, there's no workshop, executive session. Going into discussion regarding pending litigation. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mason?
I'll second.
Trustee Stylen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.